later. Lovely. And as Zoom asks us to do, in case you're too uncomfortable with your audio video, you can feel free to turn it off. But of course, we would love for you to be on video and engage with us throughout the session. This is our last session this calendar year. But I'm super excited. We are coming back very early next year with a bang, with lots of sessions planned. And without much ado, we will get right into the session. Today, we are very fortunate to have Christopher D'Souza to be speaking to us on the topic of coaching clients with an inside-out approach for effective decision-making. And definitely the topic intrigued me, so I'm looking forward to the session. A little bit about Chris before I hand it over to him. Chris has about 25 years of experience in the areas of human capital management, leadership development, as well as global project delivery in organizations like IBM, HCL Technologies, and Citibank. Presently, he's a consultant director and executive coach at the Lead Strategic Development, responsible for leadership development and executive coaching. He has also led HR and learning functions in previous roles. In his last full-time assignment a few years ago, he was the people development partner at IBM. He's a visiting faculty member and has pioneered management development programs at several universities across the country. Chris holds an MBA from the Loyola Institute of Business Administration, and he is an ICF certified professional coach. He also holds several talent management as well as human behavioral certifications and is passionate about inspiring growth and behavior change through coaching, mentoring, and training. What I really loved about his profile is that he's also co-authored a book on leadership for dads. Chris, I would love to know about the book. I would want to hand it over to so many dads that I know. And over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me just do one thing. Let me start projecting. I usually have some initial starting trouble projecting, so bear with me for a second. Yeah. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So thank you so much for that introduction, Shanti. And yeah, definitely I'll share with you about the book also. That was a collaborative effort, and I kind of released in 2016. We'll probably talk about that later, maybe post the call, whoever is interested. I mean, it's not available online. That's something I have to do. I just printed about 1,000 physical copies and, distributed them, sold them, etc. Great. So now we'll begin. I think you've already done my introduction. There have been some changes in the last couple of months. So I mean, it's almost the same, except that I've taken up new responsibilities, etc. And I'll move on since you've already spoken about me. I don't want to take any more time. Okay. So I'm looking at a quick agenda. I think we have about 45 to 50 minutes, isn't it? So I'm just looking at a short agenda, and it'll revolve around these three pillars. One is evoking and deepening self-awareness for decision making. The other one is adopting a systemic perspective and encouraging reflection leading to action. Yeah. So we'll focus our thought process on and along these pillars. My request to you all is to participate as much as possible. Share your insights, share your thoughts, share whatever you feel will build up the group, and especially your experiences. I also request you to get a piece of paper and a pen, because as we progress, you can apply this to some situation. Whatever insights you get, you can apply it to some coaching situation. Any questions, any clarifications required before we start? Okay, great. So the first module is evoke and deepen self-awareness. So all of us would have been faced with challenging decisions. Yeah. So can you think of a challenging decision you had to make sometime? Anybody? Any challenge that you had to make, face, etc. For me, the biggest challenging decision was the decision of getting married. I took, in fact, a couple of years to make that decision. So, it was at times it was like almost the analysis paralysis kind of decision. So it's a long story. I don't want to share it here, but I'm just giving you the decision. What about anybody else?
Yeah, I can go. I was living in Bangalore for more than 11 years. I have my flat in Indiranagar, good life, quiet, club, everything. Clients, coaching clients, my partner. And my parents, my father was 93 and 87, my mother. And they post-COVID, they found it very difficult to live alone. Now the choice was bringing them to Bangalore, which was alien conditions for them, or me moving to Chennai, dropping just about everything I have going good for me. So that was a challenge. Emotion was telling me something, logic was telling me something, and I don't know whether I did right or wrong. I have shifted to Chennai. That was a real challenge.
Okay. So
Like there was a dilemma, and there was a dilemma, and I had to take a decision. Yeah.
So you had this dilemma between emotion and logic, and
Right,
you had to
right.
take. Yeah. Great. Anybody else? One more person?
Yeah, Chris, I had to make a major decision to sack my Swiss CEO of one of my companies.
Mm. That's a huge challenge. Yeah.
I almost lost my life. She threatened me and wanted to kill me.
Wow. Now that is pretty serious.
It was.
Man, I'm guessing everything went on okay because you're still in one piece. Yeah.
I thank God for it.
Thank
God
God,
saved
yeah.
my life.
Okay. Good. So let's move on. Let's look at a particular scenario. Say your client, or say in case you don't have clients, or you can work on your own situation. Um, is at a point where you're making an important life-changing decision. They may have come to you for coaching support. You can choose anyone, or you can choose your own. Yeah. Maybe the client needs a change in career path, job, probably choosing a life partner, maybe even moving to another country. Or if you have anything specific, you could note that down. So just write a short statement in terms of this decision or what your client is looking for. You can make a note of it so that we can refer to it, and as the the session evolves, you can actually put down the insights you're getting or whatever comes to your mind. It could be either a decision you are going to make or a decision in front of your client, and you're trying to help your client with that. I'll give you a minute.
You want us to just write the challenge, or
Yeah, just the decision. Yeah, whatever it is. If you can word it in a sentence, or if you want to do it in an outcome based, or whatever seems appropriate to you, you could just put that down there, just to let that evolve and progress during the session, because it should have some applicability for your situation. So that's the reason. You can feel free to share also. A couple of you want to share the decision, you can even share it, because we can all give each other insights during the session.
Yeah, Chris, for Srini here, if you allow me to say. So one of the challenges what I've chosen, which one of my clients is facing, is life partner. She's in a very dilemma. Sometimes she says she's confused. She's unable to take a right call. What is good? What is selecting, non-selecting, all that. So that dilemma is happening in our life now.
Okay, life partner. Yeah, like mine. Right. Anybody else?
Yeah, is it okay if I go?
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll go back to the challenge that I had quite a few years back, but this is something perhaps is happening in a few other places too, few people too, is I was outside India, I was looking after a particular sub-region, and I was made the head of the whole region, and I had to relocate. And so I said, before I relocate, I talked to the CEO and I said, let me go and check with my family. So he went there and everything was taken care of. And then we took the children to the school to see how comfortable they are. Then we came back and the children said, listen, we just moved in here, we're settling down, we're really enjoying it. So do you want us to relocate again and start all over again? And I thought about it and I told that, okay, fine, we won't go there, we'll stay here only. You enjoy your school here. And then I had to talk to the CEO and tell him that this is what happened. So he said, fine, Ravi, I totally respect it. Till today, I'm still in touch. This is maybe 25 years plus. We both are still in touch whenever I go across to the US and we meet each other face to face and things like that. So that's the challenge which was there between, I wouldn't say trade-off, but what is more beneficial in a holistic fashion. And we took that decision.
Thank you, Ravi, for sharing your decision. Anybody else?
Can
Deepa
I?
has her hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, can I go?
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
One of my clients, she had issues in her marriage, and then we somehow brought the conversation to the values that are driving her to make a decision, because she was at that juncture. She still is actually, and so there was a clash of values. You know, like one value was to stay, and one value was to leave. So that was a juncture where I felt, where should I go now?
Yeah, so you're speaking about this clash of values that you had, and how do you take it forward, when there are two probably equally strong values clashing? Yeah, thank you. Johnny, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to share about a challenge which I experienced back in 1986. 85, I got married, and that's why I couldn't go through the entrance test in LIBA. I missed the entrance because I was busy getting married. So the subsequent year, and this was because my mentor and the founder of NIIT with whom I was working, he said, you must do a course. If you can't go to the IIMs, you must do this. So I was in a dilemma whether to, because this meant that for next 3 years, and I'm just married for about a year, next 3 years, every evening, 6 to 8 is completely blocked, and weekends are blocked for special classes and assignments. So big dilemma. And even today, I am not sure what's the price that I've paid. I
So
know
we
I
take
have
it.
gained a good amount of wisdom in going through that program because I was able to relate to what I was going through at work and stuff like that. But at what cost, I still do not know. And I'm still struggling. What is the price that I might have paid for it?
Yeah, sometimes we make it in good faith, and then we proceed. So that's some risk that we have to take. And you notice most of our discussions, what we've been sharing, are not between good and bad. It's not between it's not so easy to make. It's between good and good. Yeah. Vijay, Sunil Kumar is raising his hand. You want to say something?
Yeah. So I would like to share the experience. Recently, challenge which I faced was leaving the established job which I had for almost like 16 years, very well established and growing. But then I took opportunity to just get into the adventurous life. So I just thought for almost 2 to 3 years that what should be my course of action, and then I just left the job and then started moving, and then got into government assignment for almost a couple of years. So yeah, it was very challenging to take a call at this point of time, very early stage in, not at retirement age, but very early stage, that should leave the established job and do some experiments with the career and life, or should we stay?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I mean, this is something many of us would have experienced also. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences. So now, many of us have shared, past experiences. Now, if you have, you want to, analyze that particular experience, you can use that and go ahead. But if you have some decision to make in future, yeah, going forward, or if your client has something to make in future, you can note that so that we can actually work on this through this session. Is that okay? Okay, we'll go ahead. So, as we all know, that
One question, Christopher, you said
sure.
something about challenges all not necessarily between good and bad, but between good and good.
Yeah.
Just want to make a small point here.
Yeah.
Is it always between good and good? Because like a challenge between should I forgive this person or should I not forgive?
Yeah.
And should I maintain see justice versus mercy? It's
I
not
get it.
a good
Yeah.
and good, right?
Sure.
Both look right.
Yeah, there's
I
not
don't
much of
know.
a struggle in that case. I mean, we already know the difficulties in actually implementing.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
why I put the focus between good and good. That's where our real, decision challenges lie. Yeah. So your point is taken. In case you have, should I forgive or not forgive? I mean, obviously, if you want peace and your value is, peace and forgiveness, the struggle may not be in choosing, but in actually implementing. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So self-awareness, is the foundation, as we all know, of our capacity to, regulate, manage ourselves. And this is actually the primary place where the coach needs to start mostly. Yeah. And an initial exploration would mean, what is the role of the client in this whole decision-making process? We may have certain assumptions. The client is the primary decision maker, or I am the primary decision maker. But I think we need to, open up and explore whether these are assumptions or not. What is the type of decision to be made? Is it an individual? Is it a consensus? Is it a concordance? Is it a majority? Is it a minority decision? That's, one, what should I say, paradigm. There are so many other paradigms of, decision. Is it a team-based decision? So many different types. So we need to explore a little about that. And what about the urgency and importance? Do I have 6 months to decide? Now, if I have to go on a transfer, I probably have a month to take it up or not. I was fortunate to take about 2 years to decide about my marriage, but not everybody has the freedom to take 2 years, and decide. So you need to do things within a time frame. So what is that time frame? And then comes the risk and the reward factor. So I mean, at the end of each point, I've put in a coach cue. So it'll help each one of us. These are from the competencies mostly, which will help us to get deeper into it from a coach perspective. So in this case, the coach needs to be as open and curious as possible. I mean, no set forms of thinking, no judgment at this stage, because once you start putting your client in a box, or even you put yourself in a box, then it becomes very difficult to journey outside that particular box. Do you agree? I mean, in your experience?
Yeah, I had one
Yeah.
tough time with the client who was vacillating between a very attractive short-term decision and a painful long-term decision. And I tried to be as open and curious as possible. At the end of it, I don't know what decision he had. I think he took a decision based on coaching, but much later, he changed his decision and came back to me for fresh coaching. Okay. So,
Sure.
uh,
Yeah. So
uh,
sometimes we may not know the outcome,
yeah,
but then
yeah.
it's a process that is important. And another perspective is, sometimes we want to nail the outcome immediately. When you have the Western versus the Eastern approach, the Western is generally, let's find out the goal and then move along. The Eastern approach is different. You start probing and then you might arrive at the outcome much later on. I suggest at this time, it's better to just keep it open, but have some initial exploration and try to understand what, probe around the nature of the decision, the person's values, the person's personality. That's the next point we have. So when you talk about personality, what comes to your mind? The first thing that comes to your mind is some of these models, isn't it? Like, for example, the DISC or the MBTI model. I'm sure all of you are, experts in some of them, certified Firo B, etc. So on a DISC model, who would you say is more, what should I say, decisive?
The D.
The D and the I's, because they're all
Yeah,
action
D.
oriented, they're
Yeah.
kind of decisive. And
Yeah.
obviously the C's and S's, especially the C's, will take more time to calculate, to divide, understand, process, and then finally go ahead. So it's good to know a little bit about personalities. You may or may not take up an assessment for them. And if you look at the other model, another MBTI model, decisions are made based on thinking and feeling. See the yellow band, the decisions are made based on logic, questioning, etc. And to the other extreme is based on feeling. And you may have people in between the continuum. So it's always good to know your own personality as well as your client's personality, because it's from there that these trends begin. Should I make a quick decision? Should I take time to make a decision? How much time do I have, etc. Of course, the combination also matters. I'm just giving you one of the dimensions, but the combination, look for the overall combination. And of course, these are not set in stone. We all know that these personality assessments are not set in stone. People are different. They're not the same throughout their life. There is movement happening. So for the coach, it's very important that we are aware of our own personality and preferences. Sometimes we may exert some sort of influence on our clients based on our personality. If I'm a C and I'm very calculative, etc., I might just keep urging and encouraging my clients to be more calculative. And that may not be the best thing for them. Have you come across this kind of temptation, any coach?
Oh, many times. Especially, see, as an executive, I was a pushy and, outcome-oriented person. So, decisive and things like that. And I struggle sometimes when I see some of my coaches vacillating between short-term and long-term decisions, and you're tempted to bring in your person. I know it's not right, but I am not also sure, should I be so detached? If I am really interested in the welfare of this coachee, should
Very
I
good,
step
very
out
good
and
question.
then put my leg foot into the water with crocodiles and tell him, hey, I know this is what I really feel. Sometimes I wonder whether the ICF model of complete detachment is really right. I'm being very honest.
Yeah, all of us face that challenge, Raghu, because we have this, like it's a, for our own child, how we would feel. Like for our coach, we'd probably feel. But yeah, for change, I think to be lasting, I think self-awareness has to really grow in the coachee, because whatever decision they take independently with their own self-awareness and insights, that will serve them in the long run. Of course, there may be an opportunity where they ask you for your suggestions, and if appropriate, wearing a different hat, maybe we might have an opportunity to give it. But then the doctor has to finally get the patient well, so that's most important.
Yeah, you said right about, suppose you're coaching your own 35-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Then it becomes slightly different, because there is you may not be aware of, you are aware of your personality should not influence. What about being aware of the fact that you are a parent? There's a role beyond just a plain coach. Then there is a small problem there, isn't it?
True. Very true. That's a different hat. Johnny wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to your statement that the doctor has to get the patient well. I think it is also incumbent on the patient to have the intent to get well. The doctor
Exactly.
cannot get the patient well otherwise. Yes.
It should be that way. The patient, it's all to do with the patient. I mean,
Yeah.
the emphasis is on the patient's healing. Yeah. I mean, I just brought the doctor analogy here, but it is a patient who needs to start moving and taking the initiative. I mean, the patient would go to the doctor. I mean, the example may not be perfect because we are not doctors, but the services that we provide are more of increasing their own understanding of themselves. So it's very important that we arrest this temptation to tell them what we really want them to do. That's I mean, we all know it, but many of us slip, at least in our thoughts, if not in our actions and words.
But is it wrong to suppose you strongly feel that you should tell him?
Yeah.
Should you not excuse yourself from a coach position and say, hey, wait a minute, something is bothering me. I am unable to move. What can I express?
Sure, why
And
not? I
then,
mean, that could be some insight that's coming up. Ask for permission, share it.
yeah,
I
I
don't think
do that.
it's
And I do that. And
yeah.
so far, it has not, I don't know, so far, it has not cost much harm and more benefit. So,
Yeah, there's a time for that also, but I mean, it's primarily insights and understanding that comes to the client. Okay, anyway, let's move on from here. And the next thing is observe emotions and biases. So these are emotions are cardinal components of our coaching. Now, understanding how they can influence our decisions is of key importance. And assisting our clients in the process of assigning meaning to these emotions and understanding their reactions is very important. So can you think of any decision you made on the impulse of a very strong emotion? I mean, some of you have already shared, but can somebody else share any particular decision they made on the impulse of a very strong emotion?
I just
Okay,
want to ask you, wait, can I just butt in here?
Yeah, please.
What exactly do you mean by have you made a decision on the basis of emotion? Because most decisions are emotion based. To be totally emotionless, cold and calculating is more like if something totally different.
Sure,
But I think
100% agree. Yeah.
Most of our emotions are to a certain extent emotion based. Most of our decisions are emotion based.
Very true.
I mean, be justified with a lot of things later. But it is, if I may say, it is always emotion based.
Sure.
So
emotions are part of us. And, we can't divide ourselves and, as you said, be cold and calculative. But what I'm asking you is, you had a rush of emotion and you made an impulsive decision. So how did that affect the decision? Is my question.
I will answer Vivek's question. So it is emotion based, but it could be there's data, there's emotions. But what was the trigger? I think Christopher's question was, what was the trigger? And I'll give you an example from I was a Microsoft veteran, led large teams and all, and I got into coaching by accident because I also took up the additional responsibility of leadership development in my organization. And I did it for 2-3 years. I realized I have a passion for coaching. I was enjoying it. And I got my workplace certification from one of the organizations. And I was debating, should I not, should I not? How to cut the umbilical cord. And how that umbilical cord got cut was the emotion. And I'll talk about it. It's like a Bollywood movie. This I was debating. And then one fine day I got up from my sleep in September. I got up sweating as if on my deathbed I was screaming, I should have done coaching, I should have done coaching. It was that dramatic. And 6 o'clock I got up, 12 o'clock I put my papers.
Okay, so yeah, this is something I was looking for, So the emotion comes and then, the impulse is there and then you act on it. So it could be, the effects could be positive in your life. It could be negative, that's not what I was looking for. But then your example is amazing because emotion does affect us in many ways, and it should, not that it shouldn't. The thing is, we need to encourage clients to be aware of their emotions. And how do we do that? We assign meaning by naming them. Now, what you see here, have you used this app? I think it's to do with it's something called Mood Meter. I can't remember exactly. Maybe I'll check and share with you all. It helps clients to, understand their moods and work with those moods and see how they can shift if required. Now, all our emotions are maybe not desirable. Yeah. Maybe we want to change, we want to tone down, we want to shift emotions, etc. By the way, this is, I'll share with you maybe later on if you can ping me one-on-one, I'll share with you the exact name of it. A useful app. So encourage people to assign meaning by naming. I am feeling angry. Like we encourage small children to express themselves. Write down your emotion. Expanding your emotion vocabulary is like, using a mental well-being dictionary. It gives you a strong sense of agency over the situations. And sometimes, we generally overvalue what we feel is right. Yeah, I think that is one of the messages that Daniel Kahneman gives us in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow. I'm sure some of you may have read that book, or at least a summary of it. We'll come to more of that later. Now, we have strong emotions here: shame, guilt, remorse, and regret. So basically, what is shame? Shame tells you that I am bad. Yeah. What does guilt tell you? I did something bad. And what does remorse or regret tell you? I could have done something better. So we need to help our clients or even ourselves differentiate between shame, guilt, and remorse. I mean, we could have made a mistake, but what is the forward movement after that? So it's very important that we identify these emotions and open up future behaviors. Another thing is our biases. Yeah. I'm sure you know all of the biases. In case you want to talk about them, we can talk about one or two of the biases. There are lots of biases. We speak about workplace biases and various others. So the intent is we may give weightage to certain biases, whether they're confirmation biases or whatever biases. It's important that we identify these biases, help our clients, and then challenge those biases. What are some of the biases that can influence decision making? Anybody like to share? Or what experience have you had in terms of uncovering those biases or motives?
Hi, Chris, this is Ravi.
Yes, sir.
I think one of the things which I've really seen, which biases decision making, is the whole concept of what's in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really influences and comes up with decisions which may not be best in the overall interest.
Right. What's in it for me? Yeah. Okay. So we tend to look at that as one of, I think that's another of the points that Kahneman brought about in terms of what can I see? Not exactly what's in it for me, but what I see is all that there is for me. Right. So thank you for that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had a case where a client was having a negative bias towards himself, saying, always felt victimized, like I'm doing all the right things, including my brother. Nobody really cares for me, and there's something not right. And therefore, I have an inferiority complex. So there was in just about everything he was doing, he was feeling that bias, against himself. It took me quite some time to, it was interesting for me to challenge him, and I hope things have improved for him.
Yeah. So that's right. Challenging those biases, helping them to, maybe write them down and then diffuse. So that's very important that we bring out these both for ourselves and for our clients. So in that situation that you've written down, noted down, if you can note down, anything on these topics, personality or biases, if something comes to your mind, just put it down, and you can, for further action or questioning or challenging, you can just note that down. Because all that is there, that is there on the paper, may not be the entire picture. There could be hidden motives, unseen motives, etc., that we need to probe for. So here the coaches, one of the things that helps us is to sense the body language, energy shifts. Now, when people are talking about some particular situation, you might sense a shift in energy. So that's a powerful cue for us to actually note down these emotions and biases that might be influencing us. So the next thing is to look at frames of references. Now, when we make decisions, we make them with respect to some frame of reference, don't we? What could be some of them? The bigger scheme of things. We look for some kind of a north pole, isn't it? Like values. Yeah. We encourage people to look at values because they are the bedrock of our behavior. So they are the true north in the organizations. They need to be the true north in our lives also. So perhaps working on a personal mission statement or asking your client to develop a small personal mission statement, identify values, will help get that bigger picture and make reference to that. Like I mentioned about values, the vision for the person, the personal mission will also help out. The next one is the time frame. So how will this decision impact me, say 10 years down the line, 30 years down the line? So when you look at things from a time perspective, a lot of things change. The perspective, the paradigms really shift. If we look at this to somebody else's perspective, now, for example, if I have to shift my location, change my job, etc., it doesn't just affect me, it affects my spouse, my team. I think one of you had shared about your relocation. So that's another perspective. So these are some of the filters that we can run through, some of the frames of reference that we can run our clients through and create alignment, maybe encourage them to reframe the situation, etc., based on the insights that they have picked up. Now, one caution here again is to avoid influencing the client with our own perspectives. Like you had mentioned, I felt this temptation, somebody's, the verge of divorce, and you want to push the guy to a particular position, but then it's a very sensitive area. Maybe you just need to help the person understand the situation better, understand the spouse better, maybe even refer him to a therapist. It's very easy to want to say no, stay together, it's the best thing for you, but it's very critical here that we don't make any slight push or influence. Any thoughts, any experiences here in this particular perspective? Values, vision, time frame, etc. Okay, so the sum and substances here is to follow our compass, not just the immediate clock, etc. The next section is adopting a systemic perspective. So that just means that the decision maker is part of a system. And David Redditch has said it very beautifully. He said, in order to be able to scientifically measure decision making, we define decisions as taking an action. There are multiple decision-making systems within each of us. The actions we take are a consequence of the interaction. He's written a great book called The Mind Within the Brain, and it's about 400 pages, a little tough to wade through, but very, very interesting. So the first step here is to observe the container and all the components. Now, this would mean the context, the environment, the playing field, what are the interplaying factors? Does this decision affect other people? For example, does it affect my team? Now, if I as a team leader make a decision, am I going to affect the lives of each of my team members? And if I do, what are the resulting repercussions? What other forces are there at play? Cultural, organizational, even political. I'm sure you've experienced a lot of decision making which has a political flavor, isn't it? And it's important that we give space for politics also, within quotes. What about hidden things that are under the surface? Very often, incomplete facts are there, and we're forced, or rather we are pushed to make decisions with incomplete facts. But as coaches, it's important for us to help the client uncover the facts to see from various viewpoints and various angles. So on your notes, if you find that, that this decision is going to affect a different set of people, a group of people, or there are some other forces at play which can change the course of the decision, you can just mention that. So that takes it for future reference, future action. Okay. So coming to the next part of it is, decision-making models. I'm not going to do much on this because a lot of it is available on the internet, and these are all technical models which are more important for a training session. But I'll just touch on a few. See, basically, they divide into instinctive versus rational. Yeah, you all have been mentioning. One is a cold, calculative thing, and the other one is the impulsive one. And again, back to Daniel Kahneman, he's put it this way, isn't it? One is fast, instinctive, and automatic. It kicks in from your autonomic nervous system, and the other one is deliberate. Yeah. So I think this is pretty clear. For example, when you drive a car, what kind of a system comes up when you're driving your car?
Mostly unconscious.
Yeah, mostly unconscious. So, under normal conditions, good weather, your bandwidth is say only 50%. The rest of the time you're talking to a friend, you're looking outside, you're listening to the radio, you're doing a lot of things. But what happens if the conditions change? What happens if there's a, heavy rain, a storm, there are potholes, there's traffic? Then probably the other system also kicks into play. You start focusing. You start, getting a kind of a cognitive overload, which makes decisions a little different. See, the brain likes ease. The brain wants the easiest way through. So given a chance, system one will always kick in. Now, is system one better than system two? That's not what we're looking at. What we are trying to look at is what decisions require system one and what requires system two. Of course, Daniel Kahneman always speaks about the superiority of, conscious thinking, because it kind of, sees through or gets rid of several blind spots and several, issues that sabotage our thinking. So some of the decision-making models, I'm just naming them here. One is the rational model, which looks at the problem, the decision criteria, weighing those criteria, exploring alternatives, evaluating them, and selecting the best one. Force field is just for the for and against a weighted one. I'm sure you'll know about all these models. Ladder of inference is another one wherein we look at reality and facts based on a particular, say you want to you've recruited somebody for sales and he's not done well that quarter. You look at the facts, then you select your facts, you interpret them the way you want to, and say, okay, because he's a new hire, he probably hasn't done a good job, make some assumptions, and that's your reality you go with, and you take actions and probably sack him. But this model helps you reflect and avoid groupthink. Oh, I missed one. The Vroom-Yetton model is an elaborate model by Victor Vroom and Philip Yetton. It's got some robust set of questions based on the quality, the nature, and the time of the decision, and it recommends various styles like the collaborative style, the autocratic style. So I'm not going to spend much time on this. There are another 15 or 20 models, but what I want to point out here is the main thing for the coach is not to fix yourself on a particular model, but to help explore some of these models. Now, if it's a rational model, if it's a collaborative, if it's intuitive model. So what is the basis on which we are trying to make the decision? What kind of a model we are trying to use? Maybe even expose the client to some a reading of decision-making models if required outside the session. Let me ask you all a question, okay? Maybe as a poll. How do I make decisions primarily? Tanti, yeah, thank you so much. Do I make decisions with my head, that is logically, heart with my feeling, or gut, impulsively, instinctively? Nobody for gut? Wow, there are few people for gut. Yeah, primarily. See, I'm sure sometimes we do it as a combination, but primarily, how do we make decisions? Head seems to be the maximum.
It all depends on which decisions, ordinary day-to-day decisions, yeah, head, but the big life impacting ones, invariably the heart.
Okay.
I did not logically marry my wife.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, great. So I think we can.
And at times the logic also contains a hidden feeling. You may or may not be able to express it, but I don't say logic and feeling are separate. They go.
Excellent point. It's all connected. We are, one integrated whole. That's a lovely point. We like to divide things and we say head, heart, and gut, but it all works together. And to underscore, what you're saying, let me tell you a small story. Okay, before that, the results need to be shared, I think.
Yeah, I just want to add here. I've not marked this.
Yeah.
Because well, you see, for me, a decision is all based on time. How much time do you have? If
Sure.
it's a split decision, then I may go with a gut, maybe. If I got enough time on my hands, then I'll go with a head. You see, and if it involves my near and dear one, maybe I may go with the heart. So really, to make a decision that I'm only going to have a decision in this particular manner may not be correct for me. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Very true. See, each of us has a primary leaning, but that doesn't mean we don't employ the other faculties as we make a decision. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead. You were saying something? Okay. So, yeah, so we use, different faculties. We use the head, we use the heart, and we use the gut. So the thing is to be sensitive to how we are thinking, how our client is thinking, and make sure that we also run it through our other faculties. Let me tell you a small story. There was this, captain of a ship who used to take his ship maybe about 200, 300 years ago across a treacherous sea, once in a month, and then landed perfectly at the harbor. And the harbor was, a kind of against a very treacherous landscape full of jagged rocks and whatnot. And this guy used to, maneuver it at night very carefully. And there was this young sailor who used to watch him every time he does it. At a particular point, he used to take a very sharp turn and then just shoot for the harbor. Now, after watching this many times and many successful, arrivals, the sailor plucked up courage and went and asked the captain, "I've seen you do this, so many times. It's so dark. Sometimes the waves are so rough, and there are hardly any, lights available. Of course, there was not much of navigation equipment at that time. But how do you actually manage to be so successful?" So the captain said, um, on the shore, there are 3 lights. I know exactly that I need to make that turn when all the 3 lights line up as one. So he used to look out for those lights carefully. And when he saw those lights lined up as a single light, that was a confirmation that he needed to go ahead. So we're given the faculties of our, our thinking, that is our head, our feeling, effectiveness, our heart, and our gut, our instincts, to be able to make decisions that way, as far as possible, line them up, get confirmation from each other. So whatever we think in our head, our heart also experiences that. In fact, there is a particular hormone that is released when we pay attention to what our heart is said. I think it's called ANF, And that hormone also regulates blood pressure. So it helps regulate blood pressure when we actually listen to our heart. So it's not about one versus the other. It's not about, hitting the head against the heart. Like somebody said, it's all three coming together as those lights came together. So we looked at a few models. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the brain model. Maybe we can even work out our case, the situation that we've written using this model. I like this because it involves both, the head, the heart, etc. So the first part of the acronym BRAIN stands for benefits. Explore all benefits. How might all parties benefit from this? The next one is the risks. Evaluate the risks of going ahead, not going ahead. What are the potential circumstances? Then look for alternatives. Has the client explored every alternative? Is there a better deal? Is there another angle to look at? You can apply the BRAIN acronym to each of these alternatives also separately, like in a nested way. Then comes your intuition. You can bring in your heart, your gut here. You can even visualize looking down the road. What are some of the implications? Listen to your heart. What does your heart say? Maybe even look back. Look at your experience with past situations. And the last one is, what is the time frame? It could mean need time, some more time, or do nothing. The N could also stand for do nothing. What happens if I do nothing? Now, what I request you to do is take your situation that you had put down initially and try and work out each of these, because it involves the logic, it involves the, the intuition, the gut, etc. And it looks for risks, alternatives. If you can take that particular situation and run it through this. I'll give you 2 minutes, and then if you'd like to share some thoughts you've had, it'll be great. I mean, you need not explore all the benefits, but just one or two benefits, because we don't have too much of time. Just one or two benefits, maybe a risk. Or if you feel that you just want to explore this later, you can just say, maybe I need to explore alternatives here. I've not looked at it that way. Or I've totally ignored the fact that, my client's heart seemed to be saying something, and I've really not brought up that because I was very logical. Or we've not even looked at logic. We've only looked at the heart. What is your heart saying to you, kind of thing. So whatever, insights you get here from this model, I request you to, note them down. Because I think I've personally benefited a lot by this model. So I'm hoping you can gain some insights from this. Another benefit is it helps you evaluate things both objectively and subjectively, giving you a more rounded perspective.
A question, Christopher.
Sure.
So we did talk about this dilemma between emotions, logic, and a little bit of values, between good and things like that. Basically, dilemma between one or two possible options for your decision. Right? Where does the feeling that sometimes you just feel good about doing something, taking a decision, that feel good, I don't know whether it is heart, gut, or mind. As somebody was talking about, is a mixture of all. You just feel good. I don't say I think good, right? I definitely want to buy a Mercedes Benz because it just adds to my ego and nice feeling about having arrived in this world. But my wife, she says that from place A to place B, there's absolutely ridiculous to spend 70 lakh rupees. So a Maruti or a Wagon-R is as good. Now you see the question of what is feeling good here. I feel good having a Mercedes Benz. Now, if I really felt very good, I will take that decision overruling my wife, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if I don't give weightage to my feeling good, and I tell myself I feel good listening to my wife, then also I feel good making her happy, right? So when you say explore all benefits, does it include feeling for yourself or feeling for others as well?
So it depends on how many, players are there, how many stakeholders. Obviously, I'm sure you would regard your wife as one of the key people involved. And I mean, you might want to look at it logically also, because if you look at it from the long-term perspective, you might have some thoughts. You might want to let yourself be challenged by your wife's thoughts. You may want to also feel good, feel relieved, feel you've thought through something. That those are different perspectives. So then you'll ask yourself different questions.
But you see, I've done nothing so far the last 12 years, despite that feeling, and I don't feel very good about it.
Anybody else want to answer this question?
I mean, clients do face this kind of dilemmas, right?
Yeah.
So,
Christopher,
yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, is this the time where you sort of ask yourself what your values are and stuff like that?
Yeah. So, it's very important that we go back to that, those frames of reference and perspectives. Healing has its place, yes, but if you look at values, your value might be taking care of your family, in the long run. I'm just giving, family might be a value. So when you listen to what your wife says and put it against this, you may come up with some decision. You may come up with some insight. When you look at the long-term perspective of, the investment perspective, when you look at money, I'm investing this much into a car. See, if you feel that, that's good for you for some reason, you see some return on it. See, people buy expensive cars for various reasons. There could be a lot of benefits. So it's not about just ignoring that feeling, nor is it riding on that feeling, but bringing it through other filters like the values, etc. Thinking it through, giving weight to the heart perspective, and then going ahead with your decision after taking input from your wife also. So these kind of things are subjective. I mean, in this particular group, maybe 5 of us would decide to go ahead, and another 10 of us may say no. But I'm not saying this side or that side is wrong. It depends on our situation, subjective situations, values, etc. Anybody else want to share about it?
I like to go with what NG is saying. Your heart says, go for the car, go for it. Damn the road, There's a time that you'll never regret later. You'll say, okay, what? Why? Yeah. I mean, how much more do I have to live? So go ahead with it. I mean, you can just drop dead anytime. What happens after that? So I think it's the heart. I think this is what, when your emotions, you say, okay, here I want, go ahead with it. So there are no two ways to think about it. There's no logic or, your gut or anything involved. You have a Mercedes, you want to drive around in it, you want to, that's up to you. You got the money, you can afford it, please go ahead. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
One aspect is your decision. And if you are helping a client also, you need to help him also raise his or her self-awareness and make some evaluations, etc., and the corresponding decision. So what is the outcome is not in question here. The question is the process. Yeah. So we look at the process a little bit and then we'll close. So I come to that now. So see, reflective decision making is a process of thinking to help you analyze your decision. It means being open-minded with yourself, being honest, and using your self-awareness to reflect on the process, not so much on the decision itself. Sometimes the journey, the process of decision making will contribute to your growth much more than actually the destination. See, there is a science called epigenetics in which the way we respond and study and act on ourselves with respect to our environment, the way we make choices, can actually change the way that our genes are expressed. I mean, the genetic sequence does not change, but the expression of that changes. So that means they play a very important role in the development of our brain cells, our neurons. Actual, neurogenesis happens based on the ways we think. So it's very important that we follow the process, a good process of decision making. You can read more about this in Eric Kandel's Kandell, Eric Kandel's research on it. Very interesting. He talks about how the structure of our brains actually change when we make decisions. When we use inputs from our surroundings and make certain choices. So for the coach, what is the question here? Encourage mindfulness, reflection. What am I becoming through this decision? How do I change internally by making this decision? How is it shaping my identity? Very, very important questions. Okay. Any thoughts? Any questions here? Okay, let's move on. I think we don't have too much time, isn't it? Yeah.
We do go on till 8, Chris, so it's absolutely fine.
Okay. I think I'm almost done with it. We can have a discussion probably after that. Yeah. Yeah. And the last one is consider and encourage reflection leading to action. So finally, it's not all about analyzing something or looking at it or even paying attention to your heart. We need to move to action or sometimes non-action. Now, when you talk about action, it doesn't mean activity. So as we saw, we need to look at the unfiltered facts, weeding out the biases, attachments, etc. And by adopting this approach, we actually look at how we start making decisions. We think about the process of decision making. We identify our goals, desired outcomes, and consider the particular situation, the subjective situation. It's also important that we write down the decision or we help our client write down the decision, because this helps us stand outside the circle and look at it as a third person. Very often, that gives us an excellent insight into whether we're making an appropriate decision or not. It has personally helped me by looking at it from a third person perspective. One temptation here is to either go this way in terms of analysis and get paralyzed, or the other way in terms of making a very impulsive decision. So I think avoiding extreme approaches is important, especially in terms of helping our clients develop this kind of a process. This gives you a kind of a self-improving sequence and helps you make decisions better as you take more and more steps to follow the process. The next point in this process is to keep expanding your vision. So as the client or as you broaden your perspective, there is more clarity on the situation. It's like light increasing light. When you take a positive step, the light increases. You get more light and you're able to see things better. And as I mentioned, moving to action need not imply activity. So it doesn't mean frenetic activity and doing things. It could just mean, being there, understanding the situation and actually doing nothing. Sometimes our decisions need not give rise to action, but very often they will. One important point here is how much of the client's freedom is available. That is, what is under the client's control or what is not under their control. So based on that, the decisive activity may not happen or even might be subdued. So the perspective of freedom, the perspective of how much can I control in this is very, very important. So at this point, we need to invite our client to generate ideas of how they can actually move forward and what steps might they be wanting to take to move forward, and then work with them to integrate this change in worldview. Sometimes there's a change in their perception and therefore their behaviors. Any thoughts here about the perspective of control? Have you heard of the Serenity Prayer that Alcoholics Anonymous uses?
Yep.
Yeah. So it goes like this. Someone like to read it?
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I found this
Yeah,
to be.
yeah, we use it as master trainers also. It's got a lot of, it's not only for alcoholics, but for.
Yeah, it
I
started
enjoy
there.
it.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
started
very
there,
large
but
group.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of, I mean, I think we all should keep a copy in front of our desk actually. That will help us to be very grounded.
Yeah, grounded, realistic, and moving in the right direction. There are things that we may not be able to change, and acceptance is so important. Then, and then the courage to change when we should change things in ourselves, especially, and of course the wisdom.
The thing of control that you're talking, what I've found is that mostly people employed in, especially in the middle rung, and to a certain extent, even in the higher, there is very hardly anything that is in your control when it comes down to your office. Basically, it's something to do with you, or maybe your immediate team. But larger policies, big things that really affect people, you can do nothing about it. And this happens to people in their personal lives also, at home, in the home front also, where you got to take decisions where your spouses are involved, where children are involved, then everything goes on a very different or a very tangential kind of path. So really, when you ask me, are you in control? That is something I've been battling with all my life. Then I realized nothing is in my control. Maybe I can, change the quality of my drink. That's all. Otherwise, nothing. Nothing makes. I mean, I just really can't predict about anything. Neither can I control things. So really, when we talk of control, I think you're absolutely right about this thing of control. A lot of things revolve around these things, and your decisions are based on these. Finally, it's all how you justify yourself.
Yeah, sometimes it's just our
yeah.
attitude. We can control. We can just influence others, and our attitude towards somebody else's activity or reaction. That is what is within our control. So not everything, like you said, is within our control.
Chris, Sunanda is asking you to move a couple of slides back.
Okay. A couple would mean
2 slides. Yeah, this one, the one that you're showing. Sunanda, if you want to ask your question, or if you wanted to, I don't know.
I think I just missed seeing the slide. It's the one previous to this.
Previous to this? Okay.
Yeah, this one. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I kind of lost track of.
Okay. Sure. This is just kind of summarizing what we need to reflect on. It's something that we have done earlier. I just put them down so that gives us some kind of a nutshell where we kind of reflect on this to move forward.
Yeah, thank you. So I just kind of missed this bit and jumped to the next slide straight away. So I was trying to connect.
Chris, just wanted to discuss a little bit on the word control. Someone was saying about, I think it was Vivek saying that we generally can't control most in life and most of our customers. Control, if you just sheerly go by the dictionary meaning, it's about the power and ability to make somebody or something do what you want. That is controlling. But if you talk about influencing change, you may not, that's not exactly controlling. If you please go back to the serenity prayer, you don't have to control your wife, right? But you can help influence, change their mind towards helping me buy Mercedes Benz. So that's a courage.
Very true.
So there is the courage to change things is not the same thing as courage to control things. I think we got to view it slightly differently here.
Very true. Very true. And if you influence, you might just get the desired behavior without
maybe control. A small influence, a small lever to nudge, and a big thing can happen. You don't have to make the big thing happen because it's not in your control. That's
Very
what
well
I
said.
feel.
Very well said. Yeah.
Even in coaching parlance, I am trained by the CFI as well. They talk about something called levers. When you, after this assessment period is over and the client is encouraged to talk about himself after the first 2 sessions, you generally go towards identifying that particular lever which can make a big impact on him, a small change in him, which can make a big impact. That's
Very
what we're
true.
trying to help the coachee identify.
Very true.
Which may not be entirely in his control. He is not the CEO of the company. I'm sure he is not. But can he walk up and knock the CEO's door and say, hey, this is what I feel about it? Yes, he can. Maybe
Yeah, so,
something could happen. Yeah.
so as you work on your circle of influence,
Yeah.
it kind of expands, like you're saying.
Absolutely.
So all that is, with we work what is within our control. And that's very different from the aspect of controlling others.
Yeah. The word control is a dangerous.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely right, MG. I think if one can influence, that we should change this word from control to influence, then maybe it becomes much more simpler for people.
Yeah. Thanks, Vivek.
We have Ursula who's raised her hand.
Yes, sir. I had a question.
Sorry.
Thank you. So it's really about the in this beautiful prayer that you've put forward. I thought the emphasis is really on the wisdom, and the
I
word
love that word.
The word can kind of takes you a little bit away from it. It's what I should or should not, because I could, but maybe it was wise to not, And I think the beauty is really in the word wisdom.
I love that word too.
And when not to take action, really,
Thank you for sharing that. I love that word wisdom too. And there's no end, to wisdom. You can keep on growing in it and you realize that you need more. And yeah, so, if I can, then I should. Very true. Thank you for pointing that out. So, so I come to the end of this. There are a couple of books I've found useful. These are they're pretty heavy, but they're very interesting. And there's the blog on decision making called the Resolve blog. That's also an interesting resource. But I think the most important and the best resource is, when we actually keep practicing the process of decision making and reflecting and working on it. Anything else you'd like to speak about, like to share, which you didn't get time to share during my...
Would you be sending these slides? I just want to have a, look at it later and, just contemplate various things. Would you be,
I could share it with the... In fact, I think you make the recording available. Is that right?
Yes, the recording will sure be made available.
Sure. If you want to. There's a lot on decision making, and you can just keep on exploring. The ocean is huge, and opportunities are all there for us coaches, to keep helping others, helping ourselves make good decisions, and learning from not so good ones. So I think with that, I'm done. Thank you so much. Thank you for participating. I really liked the examples you gave and the support you gave as a group. Happy Christmas to all of you too. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Over to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. First and foremost, let me announce our first session for the new year. I've just pinged it in the text chat. Please do register. I won't divulge more details. It's supposed to be a surprise session for all of you. We'll have lots of fun, so do come. And right after this one, we will resume our regular learning sessions. With that, this was our last session for this calendar year. May I request all of you to come on video. And as we do that, wishing all of you a very Merry Christmas, an amazing festive season, and a fantabulous New Year. I look forward to seeing all of you in the New Year. I would love to click a couple of pictures. So with big smiles, all 32 out would be lovely. Thank you. There goes my first screen. And one more. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. See you all in the new year.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.